To order now. The first bill we'll hear is HB 51. And also, we're working through several bills today. We've got 2 committee hearings scheduled. We've got 7 bills. So just want to announce this up front. We're only going to be hearing from opposition today to keep things moving along. Just want to let folks know that. And we're going to keep testimony from folks that are testifying at 2 minutes.
You ready, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think you have, each of you have in your folders a substitute to HB 51. And the LC number on this substitute is LC 491439S. That's what I have. Does that work out?
Yep.
All right, so with any good murder mystery, I'm going to start at the back and go to the front if we could. So let's get the Section 2 and Section 3, and we'll come back and look at Section 1 if we could do that, if you'll indulge me that. So Section 2 and 3 is pretty simple. Strikes 4 lines, adds 6 words. It provides flexibility for school systems to transport students in something other than school bus. It's pretty simple. So they can already do that with 2 different types of students. One is those that have an IEP, special ed students, or with homeless students. What this will do will allow them to transport any students. I noticed the other day at the 4-H day at the Capitol, and we all had some 4-Hers there, and you looked and you saw 2 students and an advisor, and they rode up here to Atlanta on a school bus. The genesis of the bill came from some of my small school systems that said, Clay, I would love the flexibility to be able to transport a student, FBLA maybe, to a competition in Atlanta in a school vehicle other than a bus. And that's what this does. The State Board of Education has already promulgated rules and regs for a minimum standard for these. So, for instance, the driver has to be 21 or older, an employee of the school system, or a contractor has to undergo randomized drug testing, fingerprint, background check. There are rules for the vehicle, so it has to have signage, can't be over 10 years old or 200,000 miles, 90 days, inspection, et cetera. So there are minimum standards, but this simply provides flexibility for our school systems to transport students. And my friend will go over Section 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And staying in the mindset of school systems, what Section 1 does is basically for as far back as I can remember, we've had Georgia High School Athletic Association and the Georgia Independent School Association working hand in hand through athletic programs throughout the state of Georgia, and also literacy programs such as debate competitions and other type of literacy programs, and basically had a fairly good relationship up until this past year. And Mr. Chairman, you may remember on the Georgia High School Athletic Association Transparency Study Committee that we had last summer, we had everybody come in and testify. And not long after that, or just prior to that, the Georgia Independent School Association was notified by the National Federation of State High School Associations, which allows them to go out of state, play sport events, allows them to go out of state and enter into these other competitions. Again, like I talked about, some of the literary competitions that, believe it or not, I myself was allowed to participate in when I was in high school. Basically, the Georgia High School Athletic Association decided they would no longer sponsor the Georgia Independent School Association as a member of the National Federation of High School Associations, which is required. They have to be sponsored by the High School Association from that state. And multiple states, such as Texas and Alabama and other states around us, they sponsor all associations so that the children in all programs in the schools, athletic and academic, are able to participate with each other. So what Section 1 does, if you'll look on line 24, I think you'll see it in a nutshell. It says, it talks about, well, I'll start at line 22. It says, no high school which receives funding under this article shall participate in, sponsor, or provide coaching or support staff for interscholastic, athletic, or literary events or other school activities which are conducted under the authority conducted. What it does is it's saying if we're going to fund all of these schools, then we want a level playing field. So we're saying if the school receives this funding, then the Georgia High School Athletic Association must understand that for them to participate in the public schools here in Georgia in the way they have to allow the Georgia Independent School Association to participate also. And during the study committee, I asked one question. I asked the director of Georgia High School Athletic Association if they saw the Independent Association as competition. And they laughed and said, no, we don't. And then within 10 or 15 minutes later, as we were talking about certain schools that had moved from the Georgia High School Association over to the Independent School Association, because the Independent School Association also offers accreditation resources and other resources, testing resources way beyond the typical. Georgia High School Association actually brought up the fact that they were competing with this other association. And look, we're not here to pick winners or losers. We're here to make sure the playing field's level and that all of our kids are getting the absolute best opportunity at whatever school they choose to go to, especially when it comes to athletics and academics. And so this just levels the playing field, Mr. Chairman.
And I'm grateful for you bringing this forward and being a part of that study committee and hearing those comments. To be quite frankly, having 3 kids in school and 1 in high school, it was very shocking, to see that when he made that comment, about the private schools and them being competition. Do you know of any oversight to the Georgia High School Athletic Association?
There's very limited oversight to the Georgia High School Athletic Association. What I've determined is there actually is more oversight within the Georgia Independent School Association with the way that they run their programs. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Representative Perkle for allowing me to work with him through this process. I know this time of the year can be very daunting and intimidating sometimes, but I appreciate the partnership because I think we understand as a General Assembly for years we've had this nonprofit, and that's exactly what they are, who pay substantial salaries to their leadership, kind of bully their way around parents, telling them they have to sell property if they want to move and put their child in another program. I've had children that have had to move because of learning disabilities, and because of them having to move, these children who were not going to compete at a top level of athletics were required to sit out or run with children not in high school. And so I just feel this is not an attack on anybody. This is an opportunity for every child in the state of Georgia to have fair treatment when it comes to academics and athletics.
Couldn't agree with you more. This is helping to protect kids and even the playing field, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
Representative Perkle, grateful for you bringing this forward on the flexibility with the way kids could be transported. Definitely think this could be a definite cost savings and safety and all around the board. Appreciate you bringing this forward. Any questions from the committee?
Thank you for bringing this bill. I am still concerned about the safety. You said that it's good to have alternative means of transportation, but you said the vans or the equipment that they ride in has to be under 10 years and 200,000 miles.
Yes, ma'am.
What other safety precautions are being put in?
All right, so the vehicle must be owned by the school system. They should have signage on it. So it has to be inspected at least on a 90-day interval. So these
Every
are
90 days?
Yes, ma'am. At a minimum of 90 days. These are just the minimum standards so if the school system wants additional standards, they're allowed to. They could put a football helmet on every student rides a bus or the van. So it provides flexibility for our school systems and transportation of kids.
What size, if you let me further ask, what you just brought up into my mind, because I did run a preschool, several years ago. What size are these vans typically?
Factory designed, maximum capacity of 8 and not less than 5.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions or comments? If not, Chair's ready for a motion.
I'll move that we substitute 8 from, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, HB 51 L491439S.
Got a motion and a second. Do pass. All in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and then what senator do you have carrying the bill?
This is right here.
Randy Robertson. Good deal. Thank you. Good morning, Representative. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I hope you are.
Doing good.
Ready?
Ready? Please proceed.
All right. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I bring before you House Bill 81, LC 491061. That's what the copy everybody has. You know, currently in Georgia Code, we have a project-specific low-wealth grant that's designed to help the bottom 25% of school systems based on SPLOST collections, and if they're in the bottom 25% based on property value per FTE, or if you're consolidating 2 schools and you meet other criteria as well, you can qualify for this grant. What we're doing with this bill, we're expanding the criteria to hopefully be able to help some other schools be able to make it on that list. And I'll walk through the bill, what we're doing, lines 11 and 12, and it's all subject to available funding. On 15, we put in the word currently, and then on line 17, or was ranked in any of the 3 most recent completed years. That allows some certainty to a school. Once they're on that list, you might be on that list this year and off next year. So they don't have time to plan. So this gives us a little bit of certainty to be able to plan to be able to apply for this grant or not. So that's what we're doing there. And the same thing on line 21, 19 and 21, as far as property value. If you currently meet that criteria or have been there in the last 3 years. So that's on property value. And then on line 23, it says for eligible local school systems. Once we pass this bill, you could be in the bottom 25% and not be eligible if your needs have been met. That's what we're doing with this bill. If your needs have been met, you roll off that list for 10 years. On lines 30, we added when you consolidate 2 schools, we put that are more than 35 years old. That way we're trying to target the most needy schools first, the older schools first, is we want to be able to help those first. And the younger schools that are 10, 15, 20, 25 years, they still receive M&O funding to help with roofs and windows and stuff like that as far as maintenance on the school system, air conditioning. So they receive funding to keep those schools up. So we're adding that in for the consolidation part. Then the last part of the bill, 41 through 49, that's where we're at. If your needs have been met, you then, if determined to have been met, you'll roll off of that list for 10 years, allowing the next school to roll on. There's about 45 school systems now, I think, that qualify for this. And so if your needs have been met, you roll off. Now number 46 would then qualify. So that's what we're doing with this bill. It's a great bill to help some schools that would not be able to meet the funding they need based on their SPLOST collections to be able to build a new system. And that's what we're doing with the bill, and I'll answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Representative. Any questions?
Just a comment, Mr.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this bill. For those of us that represent low-wealth counties, we are certainly glad to get a chance to be able to help those schools improve in the capital outlay departments, because it's very difficult with population changing and moving about and loss of population. We also lose wealth and value, and we're not able to keep our schools as current as we would like for them to be. So thank you so very much for thinking about bringing a bill that is worth me voting for because it takes care of the entire state and not just a patch of the state. So thank you so very much. It touches north, south, east, and west. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Couldn't agree more, Senator.
Thank
Any
you.
further questions? At this time, Chair would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to do pass LC 491061.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to pass. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
And I have talked with Senator Sims, and her, either Senator Goodman will carry this bill. I don't know who we need to put down. Senator Sims, thank you.
She carries a lot of weight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know she does.
Thank you, Representative. All right, now we'll move on to HB 306.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members, for hearing HB 306 this morning. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for agreeing to carry this here in the Senate for me. So we're working off of LC 472486S, committee sub, that the chairman and I have worked on cleaning up some little language in here. So House Bill 306, Senators, deals with performance contracting. Basically what this bill is doing is aligning Title 20 with language that's in Title 50 that deals with general governments. And so just so y'all know, performance contracting is a budget-neutral approach to make building and/or facility improvements that reduce energy and water use and increase operational efficiencies by partnering with an energy service company that are referred to as ESCOs. A government can use these services to pay for today's facility upgrades with tomorrow's energy savings without having to tap into capital budgets. I come from an area, my district, with some very rural local governments and school systems, and these types of performance contracts are very helpful to smaller communities and smaller counties that don't have the big budgets or the capital to tap in for facility upgrades and facility improvements. So I'll just walk through real quick what the bill does. Like I said, it aligns Title 20 with Title 50 with language that's already in Title 50. To let you know, state government, local governments have been utilizing performance contracts for many years. It also provides that performance contracts can be based off revenue generation measures, and then it simply defines what the word facility is. So this legislation adds revenue generation to the list of energy conservation measures that can be used on the basis for energy performance contracts. Right now, state and county governments are unable to enter into these performance contracts, and this would allow some cleanup language for Title 20 for schools to do this. These are simply funding solutions for public agencies that help them fund upgrades and facility upgrades in their communities or in their school systems. Just a few examples of what energy performance contracts projects would be. For example, local government replacing water meters that will generate revenue for more accurate readings. As simple as installing new LED scoreboards and making revenue from advertising on the boards. Or utilizing solar panels that will allow for revenue to be generated by selling power back to the grid. And there's many, many other examples that can be used. EV charging stations at a government facility or a school system that you can use those charging stations to sell that power to charge the EVs. And so there's many other examples that go with that. And then cleaning up the code. Currently, there's not a definition in our code that defines facility. There have been some questions as to whether a standalone building is the only meaning of the word facility, or does a facility encompass a whole entire area? So my best example for that is you look at a recreation facility in a community where you might have 4 baseball fields, a football field, a bathroom, and tennis courts. Well, is the bathroom a separate facility from the tennis court and the ball fields? No, it's all one facility. So we're cleaning up the definition to say what a facility is, and we are using the definition of facility out of the federal code that is used by many other states. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your help working with me on this bill, and I'll answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, chair's ready for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to do pass LC 472486S.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second do pass. All in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed, same sign. Passes 4-2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are waiting on some House members to come. We are going to continue this meeting. We had the House Education Committee, they were running a meeting at 8 a.m. as well. They had one bill they'll be coming over, so we'll stand in recess for a few minutes as they wrap up that meeting and come across, and then we'll resume the meeting after that. Thank you all for your patience.
Mr. Chairman? Where's the other lady?
What?
Maybe she took a break. I heard, I was out there, I couldn't, I had trouble getting the scooter. Yeah, I had trouble getting the scooter. The other one wasn't, that I got, wasn't working, so this one, now it's not 100%, but it's 90%. Let me cut it off to make sure I keep it. When I get to the chamber, I have to plug it up this time. Because they haven't been charging them when whoever uses them decides me. They didn't know. They have to charge. Yes. I was like, oh, thank you. But I was down there like, I was already late. You know, I could have been here for the last year, but I cut it on the phone. Uh-oh. And this and then you're going to CID, and that's for South Florida.
Is there something other than?
Thursday at 9 a.m. to 11. Are we off Thursday? No, we're here. But I think won't come until, I hope we come before that.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't drive here because I can't climb up in the SUV. I said, I got 2 SUVs and a truck, and I can't get it unless somebody help me. And if I'm by myself, I'm afraid. I've been falling too much. It's a setback. Yeah, but good. You do it. Okay. You have to take care of both of the houses. Right. Well, Mom and Dad is. You know, 9 o'clock in the morning, that's probably we
Education Committee, and that's what we're waiting on, the chairman and some of their members to present the bills that we were planning on hearing. Next, I've got to run to rules, so I'm putting my vice chairman in charge. If we do start up before I get back, I shouldn't be gone long. But if we have lost quorum, if they continue on for another 10 or 15 minutes, we'll probably have to push the rest of these bills until this afternoon at 2 o'clock is our next hearing. In 307 across the street in the COLB is where that will be. And we have 2 hours over there in that committee room, so we've got some ample time to hear the last 4 bills. Was just hoping to hear a couple more of them this morning. Appreciate y'all being patient. I'm gonna run down the rules. If we can hear another one this morning, I'd like to, so if y'all can hold on, I'd be grateful. See y'all soon. Thank you.
We're still waiting. We're waiting on the bill to come over from the House, and it has come over, but now we have seemed to have lost a quorum, so we're going to give it a couple minutes, see if we can get a couple members back after the 9 o'clock hour, and then we'll proceed.
The folks that have been here since 8 a.m., I thank each and every one of y'all and your patience. It's been a little bit different this morning, but as we get close to the end of session, things get a little bit crazy, and you just kind of got to bear with us. But I appreciate your patience today. What we're going to hear first is going to mix up the order a little bit. Going to hear HB 87. We've already had a hearing on it. Chairman Irwin, if you'd like to come up and present or say a few words before we make a motion on it.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Senators, thank you for the opportunity to come before you again. This is obviously a bill that I'm very passionate about in these children and providing opportunities for these children. We are going to work off of, in front of you, I believe, LC 491449S.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Good. And, after our discussion and looking at what we provided, if you'll go to line 545, it's on page 22. You're going to see the changes that are made from our previous hearing that we had on this, starting at line 545. So what this is allowing to do is really for some common sense that, let's say that if you have a student that is very close to a completion school but happens to be in another zone, and their completion school is 50 miles away, quite a length away from there, that student and that superintendent can work for that student who happened to be 3 miles away to cross the county line can go. Again, that part there on 545 to 533 was also, or 553 was common sense there. We also, in this section, all the way down to 559, defined the students, starting on line 548, individuals who are attending the United States Department of Defense Youth Challenge Academy or who are in custody of a correctional facilities, detention facility, jail, prison, or other lawful place or confinement, and provide further that the state board shall be authorized to designate which completion special school is authorized to provide such program or programs. So the state board then is assisting there in that. So again, this whole section that we added gave definitions of who those students were. It also gave the option for them to attend that zone, which made common sense to me. And that, other than what we have discussed last time, there are no other changes there, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm grateful for your work on this, and these schools are massively important to the students that go there, and just grateful for your work and for the Pro Tem Jones's work as well. And it's a great bill. Thank you all for putting this forward. I know y'all been working on this for quite some time.
Yes, sir.
Is there any comments or questions from committee? Senator Dolezal? 3.
Mr. Chairman, I concur with your comments, and at the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion to pass.
This is the appropriate time. Do we have a second? Second. We've got a motion and a second to pass. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and hear 338 if you're ready for that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, since I'm here.
Senators, I'm working off of LC 491434S. Is that what you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is a repeat of a bill that we passed, if I recall right, unanimous out of this committee last year, almost unanimous out of the House. This is what we are terming protection for students as the Student Technology Protection Act. This bill 338 is designed to provide filtering and protection of state-owned handheld devices that we send home, as well as servers that we provide, any of that technology so students can access grade-appropriate material. Again, this is grade appropriate. So the filters are set so that a junior could see material that a third grader could not. So be aware of that. So we have always been grade appropriate in our textbooks. We do it in our library books. All the way across education, we try to put the material in front of the kids, number one, that is appropriate, number two, that is appropriate for their age. This bill follows along with a federal act that we have called SIPA. And what SIPA does is that it provides a framework, a minimum by which systems should be protecting our students, our young people, from pornography, inappropriate material, attacks. So exactly what this one says to you on page 2 there, Student Technology Protection Act, is exactly what this is. What I stated to the House was the SIPA Act, from our knowledge, was last updated by Washington in 2011. We know technology has changed, and due to the fact that we have given so many more devices to children during the COVID times, and we're doing so much more online with instruction, it's important for Georgia to protect the Georgia students, either from the attack, the hacking, or the inappropriate material that comes before them. And that's exactly what this bill does, is it protects the devices and filters them to make them grade appropriate. I'll close by telling you the few changes that we made to this bill since you saw it were technology wording updating. So I'll use the word encrypted and unencrypted. We included those types of words in here after meeting with the technology gurus out there that understand this terminology way better than I do. And I took their input and we changed some of the terminology so that it would line up with really what they were doing. And those were the only changes that we made from last year to this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Turn my mic on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a couple of people that were signed up to speak. The first one, we've got Mike Griffin from Georgia Baptist.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Mike Griffin. I'm a Public Affairs Representative with the Georgia Baptist Convention, and we certainly want to thank Representative Irwin for what he's done over the last couple of years working on this kind of legislation. We think it's very, very important. Also, my work at Georgia Baptist also with child protection policy, and we're very much aware of the impact, negative impact, that pornography is having on our children. Most of them have their first access, unfortunately, between the ages of 9 and 10, and the majority of that access typically comes from them unintentionally. In other words, it kind of seeks them out. And so we think that what Representative Irwin is doing here in adding those additional protections there to protect our children moving forward. And we know that if you're dealing with the predator issues and those things that are out here today, that grooming is very important on how they do their work, and pornography is one of those ways. And so we think that whatever we can do to limit that and make sure, as he says, it's grade and age appropriate to whatever they're studying and learning is very important. So we support this legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Next up is Ruth Yoon.
Good morning. My name is Ruth Yoon. I'm an Education Policy Research Fellow. I'm also a constituent of District 45. So I'm happy to be here this morning. This organization is an independent, nonpartisan nonprofit, and we work to achieve educational opportunity, equal educational opportunity for every child through strong public schools. We do support the spirit and intentions of this bill to provide policies for filtering pornographic material from school-issued devices. However, we actually oppose this bill in its current form because it leaves certain diverse content susceptible to censorship. It mandates unnecessary surveillance and threatens student privacy protections, which are stated in federal law. So HB 338's definition of material that is harmful to minors leaves diverse websites and resources, especially those addressing LGBTQ plus topics, susceptible to being incorrectly censored. LGBTQ plus students may need to use school-issued devices for information about this aspect of their identity or medical information. For example, they may not have access to internet at home or live in environments where they are at risk of physical or emotional harm if seen accessing such content. Additionally, this bill requires that computer software and non-experts analyze and block obscene material. Conventionally, this kind of analysis is called a Miller test, which is performed in a court of law by legal experts. However, this bill puts the responsibility of nuanced legal analysis and determination in the hands of artificial intelligence and potentially local school board members. Without requiring training or explicitly stating that LGBTQ plus materials are not inherently obscene, we risk censoring this material. Schools have been already required to use software programs designed to block access to harmful materials, but this particular bill redefines protection measures as inspecting and analyzing encrypted and unencrypted internet traffic. Rather than filtering, this is active surveillance of not only students, but staff and caregivers' internet traffic. It mandates the pursuit of personal information through data collection without parameters on what data is collected and who has access to them. Therefore, this puts children's privacy at risk and is a violation of federal law according to the Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule. There are no standards right now for reporting requirements for vendors regarding the type of data elements that will be collected, who has access, what parameters they will be deemed as harmful, and no standards on how they are stored or if they are ever destroyed. Thus, we are also at risk for violating FERPA, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. So Georgia leaders, please take responsibility to ensure that the privacy rights of students are protected. Mandating surveillance and omitting accountability measures for data collection and reporting is tantamount to spying, and in this case, spying on children and on school employees and caregivers. We urge the committee to oppose HB 338 because it does not protect students. Rather, it risks censoring legitimate resources, violates student privacies, and allows vendors to collect information without transparency or accountability. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You've got one question. Senator Dolezal.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the time to come and share with us your thoughts on this topic. You referenced the Miller test, which is in line 92 of the bill, which I think we all know what that is. But then 93 of the bill has and. The material depicts or describes in a patently offensive way sexual conduct as follows, and it enumerates 5 things as it relates to what sexual conduct is. I'm curious which of those you believe students should have access to on school computers. Is it the act of sexual intercourse, heterosexual or homosexual, normal or perverted, actual or simulated? Is it acts of masturbation, acts of excretory functions or lewd exhibit of the genitals, acts of bestiality or the fondling of sex organs of animals, or sexual acts of flagellation, torture, or other violence indicating a sadomasochistic sexual relationship? Which of those 5, in conjunction with the Miller test, I think are pretty well spelled out here, do you have concerns with students not being able to access?
The Miller test is a 3-pronged process that evaluates content, and it is done by legal experts.
I'm asking you about
so
this section. It's not the
I am
Miller
not
test.
a legal expert. However, I would say that we support putting filters on to block harmful material. The question is, what is harmful material? Is it legitimate medical information? Is it information on how LGBTQ plus students can avoid being bullied? What their rights are if they are being discriminated against? These have nothing to do with explicit material that no child needs access to.
Right, but none of those are in the bill. So the question that I asked you is, of the 5 things I just told you that are spelled out in the bill, they're the secondary requirement to the Miller test. So throw the Miller test out for a second, because it has to meet both criteria in order to be prohibited from being accessed.
Sure.
I don't see any of those that actually relate to your concerns. So I'm curious as to what you see there.
Right, and that question actually sidesteps what is really of concern here, which is the data collection part. No one is addressing how this data is collected, where it's reported, who's keeping it, and who's evaluating it.
My question is, it's impossible for a question to sidestep something. My question is, as it relates to your testimony, you began your testimony by saying this would prevent access to, I believe, what you called a, quote, diverse website. I just gave you 5 categories of things that would be prohibited from being accessed, and I'll ask you the question for a third time. Which of those 5 things do you believe students should have access to on school computers, tablets, et cetera?
I will let legal experts make that determination. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I respond to?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's stay focused on grade-appropriate material. It's an educator's and a system's responsibility to provide grade-appropriate material to their children that they are teaching and in their care. We took the definition, and I know Michael Walker is right behind you there with Legislative Council, but we took the definition of obscene from the Georgia Code and inserted that in here. So we have updated and included SIPA regulations, which are currently in place and being followed, and we updated them with the eyes of Georgia and grade appropriate. This was not intended, this bill was not intended to spy on anyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any further comments or questions?
Ready to make a motion? You are.
This is the appropriate time.
All right. I'd like to make a motion.
Do we have mic on? I'd like
Yes.
to make a motion to pass substitute to House Bill 338, LC number 491434S.
We've got a motion. We got a second. We do pass. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
Thank you.
Senators.
Next, we'll call HB 538.
It did take a minute, didn't it? That's okay. So what HB 538 does is it gets our students reading on grade level. Between 36 and 56% of our Georgia third graders do not end third grade reading at grade level. And this is concerning because if you're not reading on grade level by the end of third grade, you are less likely to graduate, you are less likely to be gainfully employed, and you are actually more likely to end up in jail. Third grade is a big year. That is when students, make that transition from learning to read to reading to learn. So if you're not reading on grade level at third grade, you're going to miss out on 4th through 12th because you're not going to be able to catch up. The second thing this does is this gives teachers tools. It gives teachers the tools in their toolkit to teach reading. Right now, and this was shocking to me when I started researching for this bill, we are not doing a very good job in Georgia of teaching our teachers how to teach reading. And I don't know about y'all, but when I was in elementary school, early elementary school, that's all I remember is reading, sitting in a circle and reading out loud to my teacher or reading one-on-one. We read a lot. But right now, they're not teaching that. And this bill will take us back to these tried and true principles of reading, because now because we've made so many advances in science, we can actually look at brain scans and determine the strategies that help children learn to read. We know what works now and what doesn't. And in a lot of places in Georgia, what we've been doing is not working, and that's reflected in our test scores. I think in education, not just in Georgia, but I think in education kind of nationwide, we like to chase some shiny things. Somebody comes, they have a brand new curriculum, it's really pretty, it's supposed to do all these great things. So we drop the tried and true principles and we go chase the shiny object. And that's not working for our children. It's time that we stop using our children as guinea pigs for every curriculum that just comes across the board. So this will teach the teachers how to teach reading. And it will also, because we're going back to those evidence-based principles like phonics and awareness of sounds and syllables, how words and sentences fit together, this will give our third graders and beyond the ability to move beyond third grade. They will know how to sound a very impossible looking word out as they move through their education. They'll be able to do things that go beyond that lower level. So this will make sure that they are working at a higher level. So it gives tools in the toolkit. And I think one of the most important things, this bill actually presents a timeline, because as we know, in the world of reality, if you don't have a timeline, it's not going to get done. That can just gets kicked down the road. So those are the three things this bill does, and I'm very excited about it.
Thank you for bringing this bill forward. Any comments or questions from committee members?
Number
Senator
10.
Hickman.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, thank you. And Representative Ballard, it has been an absolute pleasure working with you and Representative Wade on this bill. We have worked very hard. We probably met with them at least 8 or 10 times to make sure that this bill, that our bill in the Senate Bill 211, complements their bill, and their bill complements our bill. And we're very happy. And I don't know about stepping in here if I can make a motion, but I'd like to be very much a big part of the motion or second on this bill to pass it.
Yeah, we're one member short, but I do want to take a moment and thank both of y'all, both of your work on literacy. Truly grateful for this. We do have an issue. We've seen it in the numbers. We had some great presentation at the beginning of session, but just want to commend both of y'all. I know we've got a lot of work in front of us, but Representative, this gets the work started, and thank you for bringing this forward. This would be the appropriate time now.
Yes, sir. I would like to make a motion that we do pass House Bill 538, LC 49-1427S.
We've got a motion and a second do pass. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing it.
Thank you.
Do we have a quorum now?
Yeah, we just, yeah.
Are we finished?
Yeah, I think we finished.
He didn't adjourn the meeting.
We did. Chris. Yeah, you're right.
Good morning, Representative Hilton. How are you doing today?
It's been an education morning. It's
It has.
good.
I know
It's
y'all been
good.
busy over in the House.
We have. Listened to a lot of good Senate bills over there. So, yeah.
Good deal.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
guys.
y'all making your way over here after wrapping that up. I know y'all have had an extremely busy morning as well. But
It's been good. Very productive, though. Great bills.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll be reading House Bill 318 today. That is LC 491351S, if y'all have that. Good? Okay. This is, so on an annual basis, we reach out to our locally and state-approved charter schools and ask them, what are some items that we can tighten up or clean up for y'all? And this is the response back to that. So there's kind of three main components to it that I'll walk you through real quick, and then I'll take any questions you might have. I'll skip section 1 and 2 or clarification items. Section 3 deals with what's called letters of assurances. Letters of assurances right now, a state and local school has a contract. Sometimes what we're finding is the letters of assurances are used to kind of circumvent that by providing additional metrics and terms that the school has to provide for. So we're clarifying letters of assurances and what those ought to be used for. Staying in that same section there, and actually I'm going to skip ahead to section 5, and this is really kind of the crux of the bill right here. Right now this reduces a redundancy that we have in state government where we've got locally approved charter schools that report up through DOE, and then we have a state charter school commission. What we're doing is consolidating all oversight responsibilities to the state charter school commission to streamline it and be more efficient and responsive to all our charter schools across the state. There was one other item in regards to the holdback fee. Just going through my notes here. Yeah, this is in section 4. Currently, charter school authorizers, local school districts, and state charter school may withhold 3% of a school's budget for administrative fees. This clarifies that they have to provide information or data on what those fees are actually used for. So I use the example, say you had 3% withheld from your paycheck every year, you'd want to know what that was being used for. So it provides clarity around that. So clarity around letters of assurances, how those are used, clarity around how the 3% holdback fee is spent, and then shifting responsibility of all charter school oversight to one entity within the state. And with that, I'll yield for questions.
Thank you, Representative. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, Chairman's ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to do pass on LC 491351S.
We've got a motion. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Committee.
Thank you for everyone being patient today. I think I'm as shocked as all of y'all are that we actually got 7 education bills out this morning. Not sure how that happened. We've not been able to do that all session, but great work by the committee, and thank you all for being patient. We are adjourned.